Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can use V0, Cursor, and Claude to crank out Next.js applications just like this one in no time at all. And to help you properly use these tools, I'm going to be sharing my 3-step process I use to help me go from idea to app in no time. So if you're an AI developer looking to launch an AI startup, or you're an AI freelancer looking to land more clients, I cannot stress to you enough how important it is for you to learn this tech stack because it helps you put working solutions in front of your clients 10 times faster. And this is so important because it allows you to start getting feedback, which helps you build better apps, which eventually helps you get more customers. So with all that out of the way and hopefully understand why it's so important to land this tech stack, let's go ahead and dive into what is the 3-step process and how the heck do I start using Cursor, Claude, and V0. Alright guys, let's quickly cover what the heck is this 3-step process and how does it work with our new AI code stack. Alright, so first things first, when it comes to our 3-step process, our first goal, phase 1, is to do a brain dump. So what we're trying to do is get all the ideas out of our head about the application we want to build, and we need to do this in 2 steps. Step 1, we're going to use Claude to ask us a bunch of questions about what we're trying to build and ultimately build up a large text document of like how the entire application works. That's part 1. We're going to get text. Part 2, we're going to use some sort of drawing tool like Excalidraw, or you can use Eraser or just an actual pen and paper to go off and write out and draw out like, yeah, I want to have this page that's going to have like a list of items. And when you click on an item, it's going to take you to like a detailed view where you can see some more information about that item. That's the second step. So we're going to end up getting a large text document and a drawing of all the different pages of our application. This is going to set the foundation for everything that we're going to do, which is in step 2, we're going to go off and actually start stubbing out the entire application using a combination of Claude and V0. Now here's why. Claude is great at understanding like what's going on high level, but V0 is phenomenal at cranking out Next.js code. So when it comes to building out your pages, your server-side components, client-side components, V0 does a phenomenal job of understanding how this framework works and how to turn the text and images that we pass into it into actionable, usable code. So we're going to start stubbing out the entire UI using V0. Then once we have all the core pages kind of stubbed out, looking nice, then what we're going to do is dive deep into phase 3, where we're actually going to start adding in functionality. And in phase 3, we're going to use a combination of V0, once again, and Cursor. Now here's how I like to think about phase 3, because this is where things actually like, they go from looking nice to actually usable. So in phase 3, what we're going to do, V0 is going to help us dive deep into like actually setting up, our functions inside of our code. But even though it's great at getting things like 90% there, we still need a little bit more help. So that's where Cursor is going to come in, and it's basically going to help smooth out any errors we run into, help us generate some like synthetic data whenever we need to, and basically just like ultimately make it to where as programmers, we're not having to code anymore. We're just typing out like, hey, this is broke, fix it, or hey, add this button, make it look nice. So at the end of this, that's exactly what you guys are gonna be able to do. Really just talk to your computer using this tech stack, pretty much 0 code, and crank out a beautiful application that you can start showcasing to your potential customers. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start hopping over to phase 1 and actually start building out an application together using this process right here. Alright guys, welcome to phase 1, where we're going to start getting the ideas out of our head over into images and into text files. So in this part, we're going to focus on getting the ideas out of our head into our initial drawings for what we want our end application to look like. So here's some core lessons that you need to know when building out your UI. So first things first, we just need to keep things super high level for right now. So think, what are the pages I want to have in my application, and what do I want to do inside of these different pages? So right now there's really only 2 pages that I need. So the first one is just going to be an offer list page to where I can view a list of all of my offers. I can click new. This will pop up a modal, and then once I go ahead and type in the person's name and address in here, it'll allow me to go over to the offer detail page, which is the second page. So as you can see, I'm keeping things very high level. I'm going to have a list of items. When you click this, it does this. So very high level, not much detail, just here's what the buttons are. And then over here in the detail page, once again, high level. What are the things, the core things I want to do? Well, I want real estate agents to be able to chat and update the offer instead of manually doing it. So just like, hey, update the price. Hey, make sure the terms say this, and let AI do all the heavy lifting and updating the document and everything like that over there. Speaking of the offer, this is where in real time, the agent can view their offer and see the changes being applied in real time with AI. Super cool for you guys to actually see this in action. And then finally, the biggest power lift of AI is I want there to be some sort of file upload section, as you can see, very high level once again, where we're going to allow the agent to upload files such as text files and emails so that we can have our AI parse through all of those different conversations and go, oh, the price of the house is this. They want to buy this property. Here's the buyer, here's the seller. It's going to parse all the information from the different conversations we've had with our client and other agents and actually go off and fully update this offer. So once again, AI is going to power all of this and update our offer to make our life easier for real estate agents. So as you can see, this is a perfect high level overview of what we want to build for an initial MVP inside of our application. And I'm so excited for in the next section where you actually see like we're going to use a V0 to take this high level drawing to an actionable UI so that we can actually eventually start showing it to our clients to once again seal more deals and make more money as AI developers. So now that you have a high level understanding of like what we need to do visually when it comes to the planning out stage, let's hop over so you can see how we're going to use Claude to help us extract all the ideas out of our head and into our computer. So let's hop over to that real fast. All right, so now it's time for us to start focusing on getting the ideas out of our head and into a text format for Claude to understand what the heck's going on. So what you can see right now on my screen is I have passed in a special template that's focused on making Claude a professional developer who's going to extract all the core ideas from our head about what application we're trying to build. Now, I have this actual template for free. Down below, you guys can click it and use it yourselves. It's the same template that I used in the last Claude tutorial I used. So if you already have it, this is the same one to use. But what you can see, what we're trying to do is say, all right, Claude, you're a professional developer, start asking me questions in a conversational manner about what the heck am I trying to build so that you gain a full understanding of what I'm trying to do. The reason I like this approach is because instead of me having to type out everything and making sure I'm being proactive about providing information, we're going to go, no, Claude, you be proactive and ask me the questions. So instead of watching me type this up, what I want to do is just like show you an actual conversation I had with Claude so that we can kind of speed through this and see how we get our master plan, which is the text document that we're ultimately after, because that text document plus our images is going to help V0 work some magic and crank out some beautiful Next.js code for us. So let's see what this actually looks like. So we're going to start the conversation. So you can see it goes, hello, super excited to help you plan out your app. What would you basically like to build? And this is the perfect opportunity to once again pass in those high level images of what we just created over inside the last section inside of Excalibur. We can kind of pass those in here as well to help Claude understand what we're trying to build. And then outside of that, we can just do an actual brain dump as if you were trying to tell a fellow co-founder what you're trying to build. So here's a little bit about how I approach this so that you can use it on your own when you're trying to build your own applications. So right out the gate, what do I like to do? First things first, I want to go ahead and say, hey, I'm basically just trying to make a real estate application that makes it easier for real estate agents to create offers. There are 2 pages inside of this application. There's going to be the list view and the detail view, just like we talked about and just like we uploaded. Then I just do a brain dump inside of Claude saying, here's what's going to happen in each page, just so it fully understands exactly what should be going. The list view needs to have this. There's a button. When you click the button, it does this. Basically, just walk through each one of the core parts of this so that the AI knows what you want to build. And just as a quick cheat, so you can go off and do it on your own, what I usually like to do whenever I'm making these brain dumps is on my Mac, you can set up a keyboard shortcut, ask ChatGPT how to do it for your system, but I can hit Command twice. Then it will allow me to start talking to my computer basically. So I can come in here and say like, hey, when it comes to the offer list view, I want to make sure that we have a list of all offers. I want to have a button in the top right-hand corner that when you click it, it allows me to do a modal so that I can go ahead and create a new offer. So as you can see, like, yes, this is a little bit overwhelming writing this all out, but don't worry, we're not writing. We're talking to our computer so that our computer can turn our ideas, our voice into actual text that AI, specifically Vercel, will go off and use to create beautiful applications. So I hope this makes sense. So let's quickly speed through a little bit more about what's going on. We're just going to say, hey, for the detail page, you're going to allow a chat section, a file upload section, and an offer section. Here's what should be happening each one of these. So as you're off on your own, just think, if you were a user playing with your application, what do you want it to do? So yeah, just basically make a wish list of what you want to happen. And then finally, the way I like to wrap things up, just coming from more experienced developer, I just go ahead and specifically say, I'm using these technologies. I'm going to be using these other tools for my database. In our case, we're going to be using Vercel Postgres, and I'm going to be using Drizzle as our ORM, and I'm going to be using Clerk for authentication. So I just go ahead and dump out all the different ideas of what I'm going to do. And also, if you don't know, hey, doesn't matter. The way the AI is set up is it will ask you and provide you suggestions of like, oh, you didn't talk about authentication. Would you like me to add in some sort of authentication? So super excited for this to kind of give you guys some guide rails to help get all the ideas out of your head in eventually a master plan that we can share with AI. So I'm gonna speed through the rest of it real fast so we can hop over to phase 2 where we're actually gonna start coding. But as you can see, it's just gonna ask us a bunch of questions to help gain clarity around what we're trying to build. So, hey, what's the primary goal? You're suggesting to use AI. Well, what do you mean by that? Oh, you want to use 4.0. So that's basically what we're trying to do. Even though we have a good understanding, we need the AI to have a good understanding of what we're trying to build. So we just go back and forth till eventually we end up with a master plan. So finally we just say, hey, I'm done, generate my master plan so that I can have a nice markdown file of exactly what I want to build. So as you can see, this is a huge document kind of outlining everything we've talked about. And what's beautiful about this is once we're over in V0, we can say like, hey, I'm working on the offer detail page. Look at the master plan to see what the heck this is going to do. So hopefully you understand like why this all matters and why it works together and sets ourselves up for success as we go off to build our application. So let's go ahead, make sure you download this file. And now we're going to head over to V0 so we can start cranking out the initial UI of our application using our master plan. All right, guys, welcome to phase 2, where we're going to start focusing on using V0 to turn our master plan plus our initial images into an actual stubbed out website that we can start playing around in. So what we're going to do first in this section is upload all the ideas and content that we've created so far. So we're right now over, let me show you the website. We're over in v0.dev/chat. I'll have a link to it down in the description below so you can go ahead and head over to this website on your own. But first things first, what we want to do is come in here and we're going to upload all the information that we have added so far. So our master plan. And then I went ahead and took a few different screenshots of the different pages in our application. So the front end, the back end, what do we want the list view to look like, the detail view, all those. I just went ahead and take a screenshot from Excalibur, passed it in so that we can start working with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and add all those in. Sorry, let's actually take out a few of those. Master plan, front end. I think I added in a back end. There we go. That's all we need right there. Great. So now that we're uploading everything, what I want to do is show you how you can go and actually start going speed mode and cranking out an initial UI. And just to put some additional context in what's about to happen, we are focusing on stubbing out the UI. So make sure whenever you're talking to V0 to say like, hey, we're keeping things very high level. I just want to focus on creating the pages and to make sure that they look nice first, because eventually we're going to dive into actually building out the functionality. So here's how I would go about working on this if I was you. So first things first, I would say, I need your help creating a MVP for a real estate offer application that I'm working on. And I would like your help to initially build out the UI for the offer list view and the offer detail view that I have provided you. Once we have focused on building out the UI and actually have it looking nice, we will later come back and start adding in functionality to actually make the application work, period. Do you have any questions before we begin? So that should work. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and send it off. And make sure, what I always like to do, pro tip, always ask the AI, do you have any questions? Just because sometimes it might have a single clarification question or two before it goes off and builds your application, which could lead to a much better result. So give it that opportunity to go off and actually make it. So as you can see, it's going to go ahead and actually start going ahead and cranking out your code and actually doing a pretty good job. So let me walk you through how you can handle this as it's basically making all the different parts of your application. So to start, we're working on the offers page, which is our offers list view. So it's taking in, the title, that new button we talked about, but right now it didn't have that create offer modal. So it eventually made it. So if we head back up, we're going to say fix with V0. And this is probably one of my favorite parts about V0 is like, it knows what breaks, says, hey, I can go build it, and it'll fix it for you. So basically let the AI work and solve its own problems, and it's going to continually think. So let me just show you a few other things. Outside of that, you can see like, hey, we have an offers page. Oh, this is so exciting. Let me just walk you through it real fast once it's done generating. So high level, what V0 just did for us is it made a page. This page is going to be inside of Next.js. This is going to be a server-side component. And this is one of the things that's so beautiful about working with V0 is it fully understands the Next.js framework. If you were to try to do this with Claude right now, it would kind of like generate a page. It might try to do the page routers approach. And basically, if that doesn't make sense, don't worry. It's just another way of working with Next.js. But just know, Claude does not use Next.js to its fullest. V0 knows exactly how Next.js works and can crank out beautiful code that's stubbed out properly. And that's exactly what just happened. It made a offers page that has an offers list view, which this offered list view is going to be the client side component. So this is exactly what you would want to expect to see. So this is looking beautiful. And then when it comes over to our create offer modal, for whatever reason, yeah, the modal is not going to pop up yet because this value to open is not true. So you're not going to see it right now, but like it's starting to actually crank out some code. So let's go ahead and start working to see if some of these extra pages aren't made. Let's see if we can keep going together. It's looking nice. For whatever reason, that modal isn't working, but we can actually go ahead and start working now on slowly iterating through each one of these pages, specifically the list section first. We're going to focus on the list, then we're going to hop over to the detail. So let's work on cleaning these up super fast. And sometimes V0 doesn't do the best with things like modals and actually, integrating some of the different components it's creating, which is why it's great to have V0 on one screen and your code editor in the other so that you can kind of copy what V0 does and add it over to your application. So let me show you this actually in action. So what I've done is I went ahead and created a Next.js application that is hooked up using Tailwind CSS, and it's using ShadCN. I basically just followed all the quick start guides to get to this exact step that you're about to see right here. When I run the application, you see the typical Next.js startup screen that you would normally see. Okay, cool. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start copying the code from V0 over to our editor so we can actually see it get built in real time, because it's beautiful once you see it in action. So what we'll do, come over here. Well, you can actually do two things. I'll show you some magic here in a second. So you can go ahead and let's just copy their initial page. So in our case, you can see app offers page. Okay, that's important. So we're gonna do, copy it. And then what we're going to do, go over, make our folder. So app offers, and then what we'll do, new file, and then page.tsx, paste it. Awesome, looks great. And I did want to make sure that we spelled things right. Offers, plural. Fantastic. Okay, so that's one component, and we can actually start viewing it once we import some of these missing components. And this is where the cheat code comes in. So let me show you how you can actually go ahead and start working on implementing some of these missing components that are ShadCN components that we haven't added yet, but we need to. So here's how we can do it. If you come up here inside of V0, make it a little bigger for you guys, and you see this like little terminal button, you can click this add to code base button. What it's going to do is it's going to use ShadCN to add certain components over to your project. So let me show you this because it's basically magic. So copied that back over in our code. Let's open up a new terminal so you can see things in action. So what we're going to do now is go, okay, I would like to add, and then what do I want to add? Well, the components that we just created. So I'm going to run it, and what it's going to do is it's going to go off and saying, let me check to see what's out there. Let me install some dependencies. And then what it's going to do is add in the missing components. So it added in the app offers page for us, which is exactly the page you can see right here. It added it as a component. Technically, we don't need this one because we actually have like a full-blown, page right here. So we can actually, we'll delete this one. Don't need it. But the important thing is we needed a button inside of our code right here, and it added it for us, which is so cool. So we have to do a little bit of dancing with V0 because like sometimes it'll add it as a component when it needs to be a page and vice versa. But let me show you now that we've kind of seen the initial part of it working. Let's go ahead and import these two other components so you can actually see it working inside of Next.js. So then once you see like the initial parts working, we're going to start going speed mode and actually getting this really cranked out. So what was the other part of our code that we're missing? Well, it was the offers list. Head over here. What are we going to do? We're going to copy our code base button, add it, come back over here. We're going to paste it in. This should add our offer list view. And while that's running, let's come over here and speed mode through and grab our offer modal. Great. So that added the proper components and it just spelled it a little bit differently. So what we'll do is we'll come back and add that in a second. And then what we'll do, create offer modal. Let's go ahead and add these part at part. So what you can do is you can go ahead and start trying to import these in just a second. And then we'll go ahead and actually add in our missing component. So what you'll see now is we are missing a few different pieces of code. So what we can do is actually hop back over to our component section and start saying, all right, I want to add in our modal. So you can see this is called our create offer modal component. So just a slight different name. So we can just copy that over here, update. And now what we can do is go ahead and say, yeah, add in that piece of code that we needed. Same for offer list. What we can do, come back over here, offer list component, paste it in, update our imports. Great. Now, what should happen, now that we have this all working, is we should be able to start seeing our application run. We do have a few more imports to clean up. It looks like our offer modal had some additional things it needed to import. So we'll let it finish running up and then it should work. Cool. So we have just actually coded out a page and a component and two other components, which is crazy. So now let's hop over to our application so we can see it running. So we'll go to /offers, and this should show us our list view. Oh my gosh, it's actually fully working. So now we have the ability to see like, hey, these are the different offers. They're obviously not fully working right now, but you can actually see it's all working. We have a section when I click new, it's going to pop up an offer confirmation that will actually allow us to actually start putting in our users, their name and their address. So we now have like the initial part of this working. So what I'm gonna do, because the whole part right now is to get things working visually, let's clean up the list view a little bit more, and then we're going to hop over to the detail page. So let me show you how we can do this back over inside of V0 just by strictly talking to our editor and our chat and let AI do all the magic for us. And at this stage, when it comes to cleaning up, there's really two main things that I can think of that we need to focus on fixing. One, we're missing a nav bar, which is huge. So what we need to do is kind of copy some, hey, here's our current state of our application over to V0 so it understands where we're at. And then we can say like, hey, I was trying to add that navigation bar inside of the initial drawings I passed you, but you're missing it. So I need you to go in and update the layout to include a navigation bar. Additionally, when it comes to this list view, I was hoping that you were going to put this a little bit differently. Specifically, we want to put the person's name, then a dash, and then the actual address that they're trying to work at. So as you can see, these are just like high level things that we want to be different, but we need our application to go off and implement. So this is where we're going to hop back over and start pasting in necessary code that we want to update along with our verbal changes. So here's how you do it. First, what we want to do is we said we wanted to add a navigation bar. So where you want to add a navigation bar is usually in your layout component. So this is where what we're going to do is just like grab our layout and say like, hey, you're going to be adding the nav bar here. So I'm just going to paste our layout, come back over here. So what you can do is you can add 3 backticks, paste in your code, and this will add it as a code snippet into V0. And we'll say, hey, I would like you to add in a navigation bar that you can see inside of the initial drawings that I passed up, where it's going to say AI offers in the top left-hand corner. And then it's going to have a navigation for offers. And that navigation link is going to be in the far right-hand corner. And directly next to that navigation link over to the right, we want to show the user's current authentication profile. And that's going to come from clerk. Great. So that's all we need to go ahead and basically set up our navigation bar. And the other piece of code is we wanted to update our offer list view. So you can see right now it's kind of passing stuff as like offer name and offer address. And we actually want to put these side by side. So what we can do is say, hey, we need to update this code. So what we're going to do, hop back over here. And because this code is already in V0, we don't have to worry about updating it. Additionally, when it comes to working on the offer list component, you are not properly displaying the information that I was envisioning, period. Eventually going forward, an offer model is going to have a client name and a client address, period. When you are generating the UI cards for me to be able to click on an individual offer, I would like you to show the client name, then add a dash, and then show the address to the right of it, and make it look visually appealing. And the other thing that we can do, guys, is let's just go ahead and set some basic functionality, just like, hey, whenever you click on this, it should take us over to the offer detail page because, oh, no, it already does it. See, that's how good it is. It already added in, know that this is a link. So see, it's already one step ahead of us being proactive because in our master plan, which we passed up, we already said exactly for that functionality to happen. So hopefully it's coming full circle for you to see like, oh yeah, that is why we add a master plan, because it's kind of our guiding North Star. So the AI knows, yeah, this is how things should connect. So we didn't have to say that we wanted it. It just did it. So let's go ahead, run it. It'll go off and actually start implementing our feedback right now. And it'll start generating updated codes that we can start adding back into our code. So First things first, it's going to go ahead and update our layout. This one's simple. We'll just be able to copy and paste this over to our application because layouts really aren't even viewable anyway. So, and you might notice there's a few things when it comes to Clerk in here. I did use Clerk for authentication, but hey, once again, I strictly followed the quick start guides for Clerk and went ahead and just copied and pasted the code over into our layout. Great. Layouts are done. So you can just click the copy button in the top right, come back over to our layout, paste it. Okay, now it should throw, yeah. So yeah, it went ahead and made our navigation bar for us. So cool. Then what we can do, come down here, when it comes to our offer list view, you can see that, yeah, it's actually starting to do this pretty well. However, it's adding some weird spacing, so we can fix this really fast. But as you can see, the power of V0, it's like, as we're creating different components in the code for it, what it's doing is it's going to go ahead and show us a preview. And this preview is so powerful because we can just quickly come in here and say like, no, here's what I want to change. This list view is looking pretty good. However, the one thing I dislike is that the names are on the left and then the address is on the far right. There doesn't need to be this justify between attribute. I actually want these components pretty close to each other. Great, so we're going to go ahead and run that off. And then what we can do is start preparing to start working on the next step, which is the offer detail view. So what we'll do is we'll give V0 the thumbs up of like, hey, I'm liking what you're doing with the list view. Now let's start moving over to finishing stubbing out the detail view. Yeah, much better. We're going to start working on stubbing out the detail view so that way we can be done with phase 2, which is, the initial UI stub out. So let's go ahead. This code looks great to me. Copy. You got to love a good old copy paste. So then we're going to come back over here to our offered list view, paste it. Things look great. Later, we could actually work on adding in real data, but hey, future us. So let's see. Let's go ahead and refresh the component. Oop, didn't recognize the server component. We should have updated this real fast. Let me fix this for you guys real fast. So update this view. And just to show you guys what I'm doing, and it's weird because it actually changes variables. So this is one of the things I dislike about V0 is it sometimes changes the names. So you can see it now change it back to offer list view. So we'll just change it back to component. That way it'll work back over here. Cool. So as you guys can see, there are some weird oddities of working with these different, AI tooling. They're not perfect, but they help us move really fast for cranking out an MVP. All right, this is beautiful. When we come back over here, looks great. So we're now making progress. When we click new, we go ahead and do this. Oh, what we can do, we can also update the modal super fast to where it should allow us to say the client name and client address. So once again, we can hop back over. And while we're in it, I just want to show you guys some additional thoughts on how I use this tool because like I said, need to make a bunch of progress in this very quickly. So here's how we do it. So step 1, I'm going to update that confirmation modal. And step 2, I'm going to go off and update that we should update our primary colors and our global CSS so that by default, our buttons are orange, because right now we had to make the nav bar orange, but that should just be our primary color. So what we're going to do, 2 things, update confirmation modal. Second, update global CSS. So hopefully you can see we're able to quickly speed through this. The confirmation modal does look really great. However, there needs to be 2 input fields. The first input field needs to be the client name, and the second input field needs to be the client address. Sorry, I should say offer. It needs to be the offer name and the offer client name. So yeah, as you guys can see, it's nice because you can just quickly add in and talk to it. Once you make that change, we also need to make some additional changes to our global CSS, period. What I would like you to do is make the global primary color orange 500. So once I give you the global CSS file, please update the HSL values to appropriately use this color. And it's also important to mention when it comes to the rest of the color scheme, please look at my master plan where I described that the color scheme needs to be orange, gray, white, and black. And please update those values accordingly inside of my global CSS. So I know that might have seemed like a lot if you're not super familiar with a global CSS, but basically it is your one place where you're going to store all of your different variables for this is my primary color. As you can see right now, this is basically black and we want that to be orange. So you can go ahead, come back over here, paste in your global CSS, and then let V0 do the work. So as you can see, we have a direction we're trying to go and we're just helping iterate very, very quickly through a bunch of different UI changes and UX changes. So UI, we're making things more colorful, we're adding and missing input fields, and basically making everything look like our initial drawings that we did in Excalibur. So what you can see, went ahead and made our modal. Let's go ahead, copy paste that code over to our modal. looks great. Then what we can do, let's just make sure it didn't change the name. Yeah, it did change the name once again. We'll change it back to component. Looks good. And then we'll fix that over here as well. So one downfall of working with V0, if we had more time, we could tell it not to make that change anymore, but I just want to move fast for you guys. And then finally, when it comes to our global CSS, you can see now it updated our primary color and the rest of them accordingly. So let me just show you how cool this is, because this would have been a pain in the butt. Like, what the heck is orange 500 in HSL? Like, what is this? What's going on? And I'll show you why this is important in a second, but we'll save it. And then you can see automatically our button is now orange. So, and throughout the rest of the application, when we do our new one, this is orange, that's orange. So as you can see, we updated our global variable in one place and it made the rest of our application look beautiful elsewhere. And this is a perk of using shadcn, because just to give you guys a quick background, inside of shadcn, inside of our components UI, this is where we're adding all the shadcn components. You can see all of these are using background primary. And if you actually, if it'll pop up real fast, you can see, I might not do it here. I'll have to go back over here. You can see if we were to do something like primary, background primary, you can see it's the HSL. So that's a way to do, like, there's hex, RGBA, and HSL. Then we want to look at the primary, the variable that's primary, and that's coming from our global CSS. So, okay, cool. So you can see it's all coming together. It's all looking awesome. And as you saw earlier, we now have client name and address. Perfect. This is everything that we need in order to go off and actually start working on the detail page. So let's go ahead next and start talking back over to our V0 to start, saying, hey, now it's time to crank out our detail page. So here we go. All right, so now I would like your help working on the offer detail page. And as you could see in the master plan and the drawings that I passed up, there were three major components to this page. The first component was going to be the chat window, which kind of feels like how when you conversate with ChatGPT, where you can pass messages back and forth. That's what we want the chat component to feel like and look like. Below that, we had our file upload section where users, and specifically real estate agents, can upload conversations that they've had between themselves and their clients about the specific offer that they're trying to put a bid in on. And that should allow people to upload text files and HTML files. And what we should do is just store those inputs locally, and we'll work on handling them later. But it would be nice whenever we do upload files if you could go ahead and show the name of the uploaded files. Third, over on the right-hand side of, it missed it real fast, third. We'll say the right-hand side of the screen, we have a offer section where the real estate agent can view the offer that we're working on in real time. This offer is going to be updated by AI, and it's important that you show this offer in a markdown viewer because all of the offer that we create is going to be in markdown. So we want it to look nice inside of this view. And finally, it is important to mention that I would like you to break each one of these big items up into their own components just so we can keep our code clean, period. Do you have any questions before we dive into building this out? Also, it is super important that you keep everything high level and focused on the visuals first, and later we're going to come back in and add in the functionality. I almost didn't add that last part, which would have thrown off our phase 2 plans. So as you can see, now it's going to go off, and what it should do, hopefully, knock on wood, it should generate a page. That page should then have a few different components inside of it. So our chat component, file component, and our offer component. So it understands everything that we're trying to do. So yeah, as you can see now, it's going to make that page. This is a server-side page that's going to go off and say like, hey, offers detail page. Then what do we expect to happen? Well, we're going to have a chat window. We're going to have over here, we're going to have a file upload section. So as you can see, we can start previewing some of these. Pretty darn cool if you ask me. And then, yeah, chat section, beautiful. Do you know how long this would have normally taken to code up? It just cranked it out for us. This is sick. I love this. And for our offer section, yeah, you can see it's already doing a pretty good job because I uploaded like what a blank offer should look like. So it's already getting there pretty well. It even gave us a few things to install. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go ahead and copy these, np install, head back over to our application, go ahead and install it. Once we do that, what we can start doing is actually applying some of these changes. However, this is where you as a experienced developer can provide some feedback to the UI before it goes off and actually we start copying this. Specifically, I see there's going to be a problem between the parent page and all the children component. Specifically, in the end version of our application, we need the ability for whenever we upload a file for that to go update the offer viewer. So basically we need this component to be able to like say, hey, here's the updated offer, show it. And the issue that's happening is we're missing a client component. So I'll just go ahead and tell V0, hey, you're missing this. And this is kind of where you get promoted as a software developer from like a doer to more of a software manager, to where you get to make sure, yeah, software that you're building, it's clean and it's going to work as you would expect. So let's go ahead and say what changes we'd like to see. All of that looks absolutely perfect, exclamation mark. I love the way everything is looking visually. However, we need to take a step back and add in one additional component, which is going to be the offer detail client component. This offer detail client component needs to receive the offer from the offer detail page, which is a server-side component. And what we want to do inside of our offer detail client component is share a offer between the file upload component that you've created and the offer viewer component as well. Additionally, we are going to be sharing the offer with the chat window. So basically this one object is going to get shared to the 3 children, which is why it needs to be a client component, because we're going to be using state. So as you can see, it kind of needs, you as a software developer need to know how to speak the language of software development. This is a perfect time to mention 2 different things while code's generating it. I just launched a Fullstack AI developer masterclass over inside my Skool community. And just to give you a heads up, it is a end-to-end project where you'll get to build a real world full stack application that focuses on AI automation. People have been loving the course. I can't wait for you to take it. But if some of the things that I'm saying are overwhelming, definitely recommend checking that out, because I really focus on going deep with you guys, building out a full stack application using Next.js, that where you go from step by step to learning like server-side component, client component. Oh, this is how you use Vercel AI SDK. Like everything that we're doing here, I go super deep. So if you're looking to like really freshen up as a AI software developer, cannot recommend that course enough. Hundreds of people have already joined. They're absolutely loving it. Would love for you to be a part of the course as well. But enough of that. Let's hop back so you can actually see what's going on. So you can see now we have a client component, then we have a server component, then we have a, basically it did exactly what we wanted it to do. So what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna do our best at copying and pasting things over. So what we can do is come over here. We're gonna just start doing the same thing with our code base, and we're gonna start actually pasting in all of the different components that it's asking us to implement. So we'll start off with the client component, which will create the component offer detail client, makes it right there. Then what we're gonna do, the page one, we're gonna have to manually add ourselves. No worries, we're just going to make a new, let's see, offers ID page. So you can see new offers, we'll make a folder ID, and then inside the ID, we'll make a page. And this is just using Next.js route-based pathing. So paste it there, awesome, cruising. And then we can go ahead and add in the final 3 missing components. So what we're gonna do, just gotta love this, the fact that we can just copy and paste and literally just build code instantly inside of our application. So we're gonna add in our chat window next. This should probably go ahead and ask us if we wanna add a button. No, we already have one. Do we wanna add in the input? Nope. Great, so it went ahead and added in a scroll area for us and made that new component. And then finally, we're gonna keep chugging along to add in our file upload section. Great, copy that. So as you can see, we've now, we are speeding through. We built an entire list view, and now we're cranking through a detail view at lightning fast speeds. And you pretty much just have to watch this to make sure that we're adding in the appropriate components at different times. And then same for our offer view. Now, for some reason, this one's having a little bit of a hard time reading content, and we'll work on adding that in later. Basically, it's just making a modal, basically just like making an offer object, and it's saying it should have a content, but we'll come back to that later because it's right now saying it didn't get it. But we'll go ahead and add it into our project as well. And that way, once we've added in all the components, we can hop back over and actually see, hey, what the heck does this detail view look like? So once again, no, we already have all the proper components. Great, so things are looking awesome. So we are importing all the important parts. And what we can do is go ahead and say, what do we want to happen? So let's see, for some reason that component's there. It looks like our page didn't get fully pasted in. Let's copy and paste that. Yeah, it just didn't fully get pasted in. All right, so let's work on fixing this together and getting everything working. So first things first, the offer detail client is not being imported. Well, what do we need to do? We need to head over to our file explorer and look for our offer detail client. And you can see in here, it's once again client component. So this is a big pain in the butt that it takes component. Great. So now we have our page pretty much working. We can update our initial offer. We'll make that anonymous. And we're basically just cleaning up bugs for right now that are basically getting passed in whenever we're stubbing things out. So totally doesn't matter. We can console.log the ID. And like I said, guys, I'm just trying to speed through so you can see the power of going from idea to actually real world application and show you some of the common problems you're going to run into along the way. Now, what do we need to do? Right now, it's trying to import a bunch of things that don't exist. So what do we do? Well, we're going to come down here and actually try importing them. Now, I'm going to cheat for you guys and show you a little bit of how you can use Cursor to solve some of these errors. So one thing that you can do, because like this is kind of a pain, what you can do is say Command A to select everything, and then you can do Command L or Control L on Windows. And what you can do is just have ChatGPT solve this issue. But the core issue is we need to allow this to understand where all of our components are at. So what you can do is do @ and then press down to go to folders and then over to components. Perfect. That's all you need to do. And this is using Cursor Pro. So now we can say, hey, I am having trouble importing the proper chat file and offer viewer components. Can you please look at the names in my components folder and help me update my imports, as well as help me update the names of the components I'm adding in. And just to give you a quick heads up, whenever I'm building out components like this, if I'm solving a problem that involves a little bit of thinking, I always use 4.0. If I'm doing something that's like a quick, like, hey, just add this text, I go off and actually add in the ability to do, basically, I do 4.0 mini. So what you can see, check your components directory. I guess it did like it for whatever reason. It's saying it should work. So, hey, sometimes it fails, sometimes it doesn't. But in our case, what we'll do is basically it was the component issue. We'll come back to V0 later, or sorry, Cursor, when it's actually working, but you'll see it in a minute. It is super powerful when it works. Cool. So now this is a happy component. Life's looking good. Everything else is looking good. So what we can do, head over to our application. And what we need to do is just go over to a random offers page. So we'll go to offers 1, 2, 3. And now you can see that, holy crap, we have a full-blown offers detail page up and running. We're just saying like, hey, can I help your offer? We could probably, let's see if we can type in here. We'll work on this together. Oh my goodness, we can even type in here and add messages. It'll look sick. Eventually what we're going to do in the next step, we're going to start adding functionality. We're going to have it to where it's going to make some OpenAI calls and actually go off and start updating the offer over here in real time. Similarly, when it comes to the file upload, let's see if this will work. Let's see if Shad, CN, and V0 work for us. Oh my goodness, it works there as well. That is so cool, guys. So now that we have the basic entire application working to where we can actually hop around to different pages, we can go ahead and hop over. Let's see if one of these list views. Oh my goodness, it fully works. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna hop over to the detail portion of this in phase 3, where we're actually gonna start adding in functionality. And this is where you're gonna see a lot more of V0 working with Cursor to rough out some of the errors that we're gonna see when it comes to implementation. So let's go ahead, hop over to phase 3 so we can start cranking out the rest of this application. All right, guys, welcome to phase 3, where we're going to start adding in functionality to all of the different components that we just stubbed out in the last phase. So you're going to see us using V0 and Cursor to their full potential. I'm so excited for you to see this. And just as a quick overview of where we're going together, first, we're going to go off and add in functionality to our offer list view. So right now, if we head over to our offer list view, let's go back for a second. All the data in here is static, meaning, nothing about this is changing. And when we click new, it's not actually adding a new offer. So we're going to make this actually dynamic and hooked up to a database so we can save stuff and all of it works. Then in the next section, we're going to go off and set up this chat to actually update the offer in real time. So this is where we're going to actually start integrating some AI so you can actually see like this all working together and actually adding out modern AI functionality to applications using V0 and Cursor. So excited for you guys to get to see this. And as a quick background, I did just want to mention, to make things super quick in this video, I went ahead and added in the fact that we're using Vercel Postgres. So I hooked up a database to our application. And I did this by going and hooking up and creating a Postgres database in Vercel. And then I ended up standing up and setting up Drizzle to work inside of our local application. So basically this file right here saying, yep, I'm using Drizzle. Here's how we connect to our database. And I went ahead and created an offers schema just so we can move fast. So in this, you can just see we have everything that we need to know about an offer that we're creating for our application, such as who made it, what user, what's the name of the client, and where is the address of the house we're trying to buy. Cool. So now that we're on the same page, we can actually hop over and back to V0 and start implementing some of the offer list features that we just talked about. And as a quick overview, I did want to mention, if any of this is confusing, don't worry, there's a bunch of different options. If you head over to my free AI developer Skool Community, feel free to go over there, ask some questions. If you want a little bit more help, I am going to convert this entire course into a much longer mini module over inside of my AI Developer Accelerator Pro program. So that in there, I'll actually show you guys setting up the database, setting up Clerk, setting things up end to end, and adding out some additional features such as like working with the file upload section. So you can kind of see even more functionality if you want that. And then finally, if you're like, man, a lot of this full stack development is way over my head, don't worry, I just launched, like I said, a Fullstack AI Marketing Platform course where I teach you from end to end how to build a modern AI full stack application. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop back over to V0 so we can start cranking out some of the new features that we just talked about. So first things first, when it comes to the offer list view, what we're going to do is go ahead and grab that schema that I went ahead and created for you guys. Come back over here, and what we're going to do, paste in our schema just so that V0 knows the type of models that we're working with. So as we go off and say like, hey, I want you to use the offers model, it'll know exactly what it's working with. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and describe what behavior we want inside of our application. And just as a quick refresher, sometimes V0 isn't the best at keeping track of what your previous models were or your previous pages were. So what I also like to do is come in here, and in our case, it was having trouble with the offers page. So I'm going to add that in as well. Just put it in 3 quotes. That way it knows what it is. And also the offer list view component, it seemed to have trouble with that one earlier. So I'm going to also drop this in 3 quotes. Great. So now that we've given V0 an updated version of our application, what we can do is go ahead and describe exactly what we're looking for. So here's what we can say. I need your help in building out the offer list view portion of the application. So here's what I would like you to do. First, I would like you to start using and creating a new queries.ts file that goes off and pulls records from the offers table for our specific user. So basically, whenever we want to go ahead and fetch all the offers for our current user in the list view, you should use this queries file where you're going to add in all of your queries to get offers for the current user. Outside of that, what I want you to do is update the offers page on load to go off on the server side component and fetch the current offers for the current user and pass those fetched offers down to the client side offers component, period. Do you have any questions before you go off and update these pages and components and create the new query? So I know that was a mouthful, but what I wanted to do, just so you can see how I'm thinking about this, and hopefully this behind the scenes helps. So when you're out building your own pages and components and own applications, you know exactly what to say. Basically, what I'm trying to do is think programmatically of like, what are the key actions that I want to occur? So that's why I stated them at the end. And then what I like to do is, as you begin to use Next.js more and more, you'll kind of recognize like, oh yeah, this is a server-side component. This is a client-side component. Here's the functionality and the flow that I would normally code out myself, but I can just have V0 do it for me. So as you can see, it went off and created a new queries for us, which is sick. This is exactly what we want, where you can see we're now going to grab from our database our offers that are all for the current user. This is exactly what we wanted. And it went off and it looks like updated our 2 other tables, or our page and our table 2. So you can see now it's getting it and then it's passing it in. Ooh, looks awesome. And then over here, when it comes to our offer list view component, you can actually see that, yeah, we're getting state and adding it. Oh, this is exactly what we want. So what we can do, we can grab each one of these and actually add them over to our code so we can start trying it out. So what we're going to do, go over to our server, and here we're going to make a queries.ts file. And this is going to be where we can actually add in support for our queries. So what I like to do whenever there's import issues, that's usually just because V0 doesn't know what our local application is using, like import path-wise. So you can just usually come in here and press Command period on a Mac or Alt period on Windows and import all of the missing dependencies. So import from our DB file, grab it from our offers table. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. Now we can head back over to our offers page. So we're in the offers page now. Go ahead, grab that component, paste it over here. Looking awesome. Now, what you're gonna notice is we broke something, and that's because initial offers is a new thing that we just added. And if we come over here, you'll notice in our offers list view component, we are now passing it in as a prop. And that's exactly what we would expect to happen. So if I come over here, paste it, great. And now we're no longer using mock data. We're gonna go ahead and create the real deal. So this is looking great, guys. So let's make sure everything's working, things looking good. And when it comes to our queries, we need to update to make sure we get them from our server folder that we set up just a second ago. Awesome. So now if we refresh the page, what we should start seeing in a second is all this working. So right now it's saying the offers table isn't working. This is a quick schema issue. So what we can do whenever you're using Drizzle to make a DB change, I just never push my changes. You can run npx drizzle kit push. It'll push your local changes to the database. So you can see it's going to go off and actually make everything look nice. And then let's see, create a column. This was my bad. I think we just have to run it one more time. Sometimes there's always a quick little issue. But yeah, now things are working. So now when we go back over to our application and refresh, what we'll start to see is like, yes, we actually have offers now. So it's pulling. It just so happens that we don't have any offers from our database yet. So we could manually create one, but we're not going to do that. We're going to actually get everything set up to support this new button functionality. So that's what we're going to work on next. Whenever I click this and actually come in here and create a new offer, it should add it to our database. So let's hop back over to V0 and start stubbing this out. So what we're first going to do is hop back over and just quickly look at what our create offer modal looks like so we can see what's missing. And right now it just looks like handle create isn't actually doing anything. So that's the main thing. Like handle create should probably go off and actually create a new endpoint. And then inside of our list view, what you'll notice is we're not really doing anything with basically with it. So we're just the create offer modal component should go off and actually do something. So what we need to do is we're gonna just copy it over here. We're gonna hop back over to V0 and start telling V0 how it should properly handle working with this client to go off and actually create basically a new offer. And this is where we're gonna start setting up some endpoints. So I'm excited for you guys to see this. Can you please help me add in functionality so that whenever I create a new offer, it actually goes off and makes a request to a backend endpoint to handle the creation of a new offer? So breaking this down, you need to use the Axios package to create and send off a post request to a backend endpoint, such as API, offers, and I think that should be a great endpoint to use right now. Then what I would like you to do inside of that backend endpoint is create a Next.js app router post endpoint that should accept and handle us passing over the client name and the address of the offer that we're going to go off and put a bid on. And once we go off and actually send that request, the post endpoint should handle the creation of this new offer in our Drizzle Postgres database and then return the newly created offer back to the front end, period. Do you have any questions before you go off and set up this new API route and handle all the functionality in the create offer locally? So this is a great first stab. So as a software developer, I'm trying to think like core functionality first. And then a few things that I'm also thinking about is like, is V0 going to add in some nice UI? So back over here, whenever I click create, is it going to do a loader for us? So these are just things that I think about as V0 is going off working for us. Is like, I try and like think of like next steps, and I usually like to add them while it's working. So this way, like I'm working faster. So I can say like loading while creating. What else can I do? Like I said, I just try and think proactively while it's working. So A, I'm staying sharp, and B, I can just note down all the things that we need to add in eventually and let V0 do the heavy lifting for us. And in a little bit, I promise we're going to get over to Cursor, implementing some of the more fine level details. It's just right now, this high level code, V0 just does so well that it's actually hard to need anything else. Okay, so what we can see in the create offer modal, it definitely added, oh my gosh, it did it for us. It added in a is loading. Beautiful. So you can see now what it's going to go off and do is make a post request to our offers endpoint, passing up all the information we need. Looks great. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. It is refreshing the page. We'll work on that, and we can use Cursor for that. But what we can do now is copy this, head back over to our create offer modal, paste in here, get rid of all that. Now, what you're going to notice is it doesn't have Axios. So what we can do is come down into our terminal, npmi Axios. We're going to install the missing package, which will set us up for success to go off and send requests to our backend. And while we're here, what we can do is say, we'll start using cursor. So what you can do, highlight the text that you want to, and then you can hit Command L. And then what it'll do, Windows check, you might have a different key. But what we can say is like, hey, I actually don't want to refresh. I want to navigate over to the other page. So here's what we can do. Can you please update this code to pull out the offer that gets sent back in the response? And then we want to use React navigation to redirect us over to the offers page. And that offers page is going to include the ID of the new offer. So we'll just go ahead and stub it out for us. So we'll do offers, and then we'll just do offer ID. Perfect. So this will go off and actually get the right code working for us. So you can see now it's doing router push. We can apply that, and for whatever reason, it didn't add in next navigation, but we'll work on that in a second. So you can see all of that looks great. And then router, use router. This is just, yeah, perfect. This is exactly what we wanted. Okay, cool. So now whenever we create a new offer, it should make an entry in the database once we update our API, and then it'll redirect us over to the detail page. This is coming along great, guys. We're cruising. All right, so what was the final thing that we wanted to do? We wanted to set up our API offers route. So what can we do? Well, what we can do, open up our file explorer, and then in our app folder, what we can do is create a new folder called API, and then they said API offers route. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. API offers, and then we're gonna make a route.ts, route.ts, great. And then we'll just paste in our, sorry, wrong code, paste in our offers route code, looks great. Paste it in here, and we should be getting some sort of a post request. And per usual, we got to clean up some of the imports just because it doesn't know exactly what our local file structure looks like. And our offers tables, sick. And this looks great, guys. And let me just quickly walk you through what's happening. We're going to use clerk to get our current user ID. If they're not logged in, throw an error. Outside of that, we're going to get and check, basically check to see that the user submitted the client name and address. Make sure that we got that information. If we didn't, do some validation. Then we're going to use Drizzle to go off and insert a new offer into our offers table. The content field is where we're eventually going to store the offer, but for right now we'll just set it to empty, and returning is going to give us back the newly created offer. So this is how we're going to return the offer back to our front end. So now let's take this for a spin to see if it works. So let's refresh the page. It looks great. So let's go ahead and click new, and let's just do Brandon, and let's just do 321 Atlanta, Georgia. And let's see, should create it, go off, and then it should redirect us over to the offers detail page, which it exactly did. Looks sick, guys. So now if I go back and actually just update the URL real fast to go back to regular offers, I should now see the newly created offer, because when this is now a part of our database. So you can see that our endpoint did successfully add it to our backend database, and the API sent back a response of the new offer so that we could redirect over to the offers detail page. This is awesome. So now that we got basically got this initial part working, what we can do is head over and start working on the offers detail page. And this is where we're going to get our hands a little bit dirtier and getting this chat functionality to work, to where this chat will update this offer. It's going to be a little bit more in the weeds, but I'm super excited for you guys to see it in action. So let's go ahead and we're going to hop back over to V0 and start cranking this out. And actually real fast, before we hop over to V0, I think this is a perfect opportunity to show how you can start using Cursor to implement some of these features. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to hop over to the Vercel AI SDK docs. I'll have a link to this down in the description below. But you can see right now we're in the chatbot section. So what we're going to start working on is implementing their examples for setting up a page, a client-side component, to go off and start chatting with Vercel AI SDK tools. So this is how we can start actually chatting over here and actually start sending a request over to an OpenAI LLM to actually send us back a response, an AI response. So what are we going to do? Well, the cool way to do this is on a Mac, you can just go ahead and copy this URL. So I copied the URL. Now what we're going to do, we're going to hop back over to our code, and this is where we can start leaning on Cursor to start doing some extra implementation for us. So you can see right now I'm in the chat window TSX file. What we're going to do is I'm going to open up a sidebar, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a reference to those docs. So I can hit @ and then what I can do is go down to docs. Now, once I'm in docs, I can add new docs. So in this case, I'm going to paste the URL of the documents we were just looking at. Awesome. And then I can just call this AI SDK chatbot. Great. So now it's going to go off. It's going to parse all the information from those docs. And now what I can do whenever we come back over to our code is I can say basically, hey, please help me update this and add in the support for a new chat API endpoint. So here's how I can do it. And for bigger requests like this, I always use 4.0 because we need to do some thinking. Can you please help me update my chat window to allow me to start using the Vercel AI SDK functionality of chatting with basically the AI? And in addition to that, can you help me also set up an API chat endpoint that will work with this new chat functionality that we're working on setting up together? Great. And let me just go ahead and fix this. This is Vercel AI SDK. Oh, wrong one. Vercel AI SDK. Great. So this is going to go off, read those docs, and then what it's going to do, I'll zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of see it. So first it's going to say, hey, Kay, you'll need to update this to start using chat. So that was the hook that's being recommended. And then it's going to go ahead and show us exactly the changes we need to implement in our system. So step 1, update our code. Step 2, go create that endpoint. So we're going to just click apply to make this magic happen. So we're going to go ahead and start importing these. So we're going to say yes. Then what we're going to do is now it's going to cause a few different issues, but what we can do is start actually importing these. So we can ask a follow-up question. How can I install AI React and the other dependencies needed for the chatbot? This one might not work, but hey, we'll try it together because like sometimes the docs don't have all of it. So, but right now it looks like it does, and we're using npm. So let's see if this works. Npm install. That should hopefully go off and work. Things are looking great. So this should hopefully get rid of that in just a second. If not, we might need to install. Yep, nope, perfect. So it worked. Now what you're going to notice is it had a few different small issues with sending off our request. So like I said, it's not perfect, and it's also not handling our current offer and updated offer. So what we can do, and this is where you can start using some of the magic of AI. What we're going to do is we're going to get this working, then we're going to go set up our backend API endpoint. So here's what I want to do. As you can see in this file, we're not using offer or update offer. And what I would like you to do is start using these different props as local state variables like we were doing at the beginning of this code change. So here's what I would like to happen. As you go off and make changes to the code, what I want to do is, whenever you go off to send a chat message, I also want you to pass along the current offer as well. In addition to that, I'm noticing that on key press is deprecated inside of the input tag inside of the code you just created. Now, some of this is going to be a little out of place just because right now we only are going to set up chatting, but in the next part, we're going to set up chatting with some tool calling. So that's why we need to start handling and working with offer and update offer. So you can see it's going to go ahead and start going down the right path. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. So we're going to implement it. And once we start actually going off, accept. So accept all. Looking great. So yeah, in just a second, we're going to go off and actually start implementing some tool functionality to handle offer change. So this is perfect for right now. Then what we can do is go off and actually add in that API code. I can't remember what it is, so we can just say, hey, can you please show me that API chat code again? So that's just me being hyper lazy. But while it's going up and loading, we can go ahead and create a new file to support this. So it was chat route.ts. Great. Then what we can do is add in their code right here. So let's go ahead and apply it into our new route, continue, and it'll go off and actually add it, looking great. And then what we can do is say like, hey, how do I import this? So once again, how do I install the AI SDK OpenAI? Then it'll go ahead and give us the proper command that we need to install on our local machine to get all of this working. So it's asking us to do OpenAI and AI. I don't know if those are right. And this is where sometimes like Cursor falls apart when it's kind of new knowledge. Cursor is great at solving existing problems, but when it comes to like I said, new problems that are like specific to what we're trying to do, sometimes it kind of falls apart. So in our case, let me go ahead and find the package for you guys real fast. Yeah, it actually was just a super quick fix. All we have to do is come down here and paste in OpenAI SDK. And let Let me move this out of the way so you can see it. So we can do npmi, then paste in the name, and that should go ahead and get that working. Okay, so once it properly shows that we've installed the proper package, which it's done now, what we can do, let's hop back over to our code. Let's comment this out for now. And what we're gonna do is gonna start trying to make sure that it is working. And what we can do, I don't think that'll cause any errors. We'll leave it how it is right now. So what we can do now is we'll start actually asking questions in our chat to make sure that it's properly handling and showing all the different messages. So you can see right here, messages, just to give you a little bit of background. All of this, like these messages, the input, the handle input change, all of that's coming from use chat. So that's that hook that we've basically, by using the Vercel AI SDK, that's how we're going to be able to access all these nice functions that make our life super easy for interfacing with the AI. So what we can do now is if we hop back over to our code, we can start asking questions. So let's go back over here to our chat, refresh the page. And one thing is super important to mention, you will need to add your OpenAI API key into your .env file. So over here, you'll need to add in your OpenAI key to that .env file so that it can actually like have a proper key to go off and do it. So now we can actually start asking questions. So we can start say like, let's smoke test this together. Hello, who was the first president of America? And if it's working, it should actually come back to us with an LLM answer. So this is like, obviously we now have our front end hooked up to our back end so that we can start making AI requests. Now, this is obviously, we want this to start working for real estate offers. So what we're going to dive into next is start working with Vercel AI SDK tool calling. So now we're going to start working on adding a tool call to update our offer on the right hand of the screen. So talk about it on the left and then see the changes happen on the right. So I'm super excited for you guys to see it. So let's hop back over here and we're going to start hopping over to some docs so I can show you exactly what we need to change and we're going to get everything set up. So let's head back over to the docs. And as you can see, when we hop over to chatbot with tools, there is a specific way that we can go off inside of our backend chat route function that we just set up that will execute code on the server. So this is exactly what we want to do. In our case, what we're going to do is not have a get weather information. In our case, we're going to have an update offer tool, and that tool's sole job is to take in an offer, take in some feedback from the agent, and go off and actually create a new updated offer. So that's all we're trying to do. So this is where we're going to start actually like getting in the weeds of, going back and forth with OpenAI and actually getting things working. Now, I will say for this, I'm going to hop over back to V0 just so you can kind of see V0 back at work because awesome tool. So that means we're going to need to pass in our updated code, but I think you guys will really like it. Like I said, I just want to showcase how these different tools can work. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and actually paste pretty much, you can just paste this entire code right here. Let's grab that. Awesome. So now we can head back over to V0. In our case right here, real estate offer. Great. So now we're going to say, let's just make sure we're on the same page. Here is a new document I want us to follow. So go ahead and just paste it in. It might actually, if it's too long, go ahead and paste it as a snippet. That's fine. And then we can say, here is my updated code, by the way. And in here, what we can do is paste in our new backend route, and we can paste in our new, basically paste in our new updated chat window. So paste in our chat window. Great. And then we can paste in our route. And the reason why we're doing this is because now we're going to start actually implementing these server-side changes, and we're going to be updating what's happening on the client and what's happening on our backend route at the same time. So let's go ahead and start telling the code what we want to do. So here's how we can do it. I need your help updating this backend chat route to start supporting tool calling. So I would like to add in a new tool call that is called update offer. And what this tool is going to accept as parameters are the current offer. And in addition to that, it's going to take in feedback. This feedback is going to describe changes that we need to make to the offer in order for it to adhere to what the real estate agent wants. Once we accept those parameters, what I want you to do is call AI, so in our case, Vercel AI, to once again use OpenAI ChatGPT 4 in order to combine that feedback and the current offer and generate a new offer. It is super important that you generate this offer in a markdown format, and it's super important that you make sure that the offer that gets returned to us doesn't include any additional commentary. It only includes the updated offer, period. Do you have any questions before you go off and incorporate this new tool calling functionality inside of our backend route? So as you can see, we're definitely going to go a little bit deeper in this one. We're starting to, really put our hats on when it comes to working with some of these modern tools. But I know a lot of tutorials just show a bunch of like flashy stuff. I want to show you guys a lot of actual functionality that you can actually crank out using these tools. So you can see it did a great job of creating a, basically updating our chat route to include a new tool. This is exactly what we wanted. Current offer, feedback. Yes, this is exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. I love the way this looks. So we can go ahead and paste this over here into our code. Great, makes our life so much easier. And what we can do now is you can see it's not actually doing anything with the offer. Not a big fan of that right now, but I think that is totally fine because later we'll actually start working on that. Let's see if there's anything else I want to change. Let me look at this real fast for you guys. Yeah, the only thing that I think we should change is adding in some sort of system message before we go off and just accepting anything. So you can see there's a system output or property right here. So what we can do is just add it to do and just tell AI to work on it for us. So whenever we want to like start telling basically to spin up a new conversation, you can just hit Command L again and then actually have it start incorporating feedback. So in our case, we're just going to say, hey, I've added a to-do to the system property inside of the stream text function. And basically I would like for you to add a prompt saying that, hey, you're a helpful assistant who's helping real estate agents create offers. You're going to go off and provide a quick summary of the changes that you've made to the offer without repeating the entire offer. And here is what the current offer looks like. And what you're going to do is you add in some string interpolation that's going to take in the offer that was passed in during the initial request JSON. So what we're trying to do, guys, just so we're both on the same page, is whenever we go off and start working with updating our offers, so let me just show you. Whenever we start updating these offers, what we want to do is go like, hey, please update this to $300,000. So two things need to happen at once. A, we need to call the tool, which is going to generate the updated offer. And part two is we need to generate a response that we can show to our user. And in order to do that, we need to start taking action and listening to what the heck this initial offer was in the first place. So it looks perfect. So we can just apply it. Great. Now we're going to actually use the offer that was passed in. At least we should be. Offer. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Now things are looking great. And for some reason, this is not using the proper version of actually chat completions. So once again, this is where working with these updated models doesn't work properly. So what you can do is say, hey, there's basically a better way to do this. And in our case, it's going to be using, let me just show you, generate text. Yeah, perfect. So what we can do is come down here and say, we'll just actually get this fixed. So you can select the code and you're going to hit Command L and we're going to talk about it. So we're going to say, hey, this is actually not the proper way to use OpenAI to go off and generate text summaries. You need to use the generate text function from the AI library, which will take in a model and a prompt, and it will turn a response. So in our case, it's going to be the updated offer. Do you have any questions before you return the updated code? So that'll go off and it should go ahead and update our code. Looks great. Let's accept it. Looks great. Now it's just trying to call updated offer. But what we're trying to do in our case is we don't want to return just trim, which is, this is, updated offer is actually it's a full-on response. So you can see this is like a generated text response. So in our case, that's not what we want. In our case, what we want to do is like, hey, I want to grab the text out of this generated text. And now I just want to return the updated offer. So now we're returning just text back to our users. This is exactly what we want. Okay, so we just did a lot. And I'm going to give a quick recap of what we did. We made a new tool that is an updated offer. What it's going to do is it's going to take in the current offer plus feedback, and then it's going to spit back out an updated offer. Now, from there, what it's going to do is we're going to take all of that, there's the updated prompt, we're going to add that in to a new OpenAI generate text. we're going to go off and actually take action on it, let AI work its magic, incorporating feedback in the offer. And from there, what we're going to do is go ahead and return that offer back to the front end. So this looks great. Now it's up to us on the front end to start working with this, basically start working with this return data. And I like to keep things a little bit structured. So what we can do is to actually like make this a little bit better, because right now we're just going to return text, but I'd like to actually return a object. So what we can do is once again select this, Command L, and then we can say, can you please convert this over to an object that has two properties, a confirmation, which just says, hey, I've updated the offer to incorporate your feedback, and then an updated offer property, which will actually be the updated offer that was just generated. So now what we can do is on the front end, whenever we get back this tool call, we can actually dig into the updated offer. So you can see this is exactly what we wanted. Great. This is exactly what we want. So now we're going to get an object back on the front end when it comes to dealing with our tool calls. Okay, so that was a lot. Don't worry if tool calls were a little weird. Once you actually see this in action, you're gonna be like, wow, that is so powerful. I now in my OpenAI calls can go off and add a bunch of tools. So hopefully this was pretty eye-opening to see how we're starting to use AI to help automate things and start working with some cooler new technologies. So now that we've done this, we can actually head back over to chat over here and actually start incorporating some of this feedback. So we can actually, once we start making requests over to API chat with our offers, we can actually start getting back the offer and start updating our offer modal. So let's go ahead and start working on that next. So first things first, what we're gonna do, we're gonna hop back over to our docs, which include all the information that we need when it comes to actually pulling out these tool results. So let me show you what is happening and explain why I'm about to go off and tell V0 what it needs to do. So you can see whenever we're looking at a tool call, so this is just a chat component, you can see that there is what they're doing is handling like a local client side tool call. We're not worrying about that. The thing that we are worried about is whenever we notice one of our messages that we received back from OpenAI includes some sort of a tool call. In our case, what we want to do is go ahead and say, oh, that tool call included an updated offer. Great. Let me go grab the result. So let me grab the result and go ahead and actually add it over to our offer component over to the side. So basically, hey, was a tool called in one of our messages? Great. I'm going to grab that latest updated offer and add it over here. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's go ahead and actually tell OpenAI, V0 how to do all this. So first things first, whenever you're working with something like this, I just like to go ahead and grab the example so that you and the AI are on the same page. So I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here and explain what we want to get done. So we're just going to say, like, this is the example code. And then one more time, we're just going to hop back over and give it our code just to make sure that we're on the same page and go ahead and start telling it what it needs to do. So let's start walking through it together. I just set up the functionality that you just created for updating an offer inside of our chat route. So I set up that OpenAI tool call. And now what I want to do is start handling getting back tool call results on our front end code. So as you can see in the example that I just gave you, they are iterating through each of the messages that OpenAI gives them back. And whenever they recognize that a specific tool was called, they add that result to start working with inside of their code example. Now, what we need to do inside of our code is we want to go off, sorry, I was lagging for a second, and we want to go off and extract that tool call result, which should be a update offer. And with that update offer, we want to actually update the offer that is being passed to us by our parent component. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is update the offer in our chat window, pass the updated offer to our parent, which will then eventually be passed back over in the offer component that we created earlier, period. Do you have any questions before you go off and implement all of these changes? So that was a gnarly one, guys. So I hope you can, let me just like walk you through what was happening. So whenever I was saying like, hey, we are working in a chat component that's going to be getting, messages, and eventually one of these is going to be like a tool call. Well, whenever you get the tool call, what we want to happen is to actually go ahead and say, cool, pass it up to our parent. So this offer detail, because this offer detail is what has the offer that's being shared between both of our different components, because the offer, that same offer is getting shared into here and it's getting shared over into this. So we want to make changes here, then actually share it, send it back up to our parent, because our parent's going to send it back down over to our sibling component. So this is just more standard Next.js and React sharing state between different components. So let's see how it's handling it. So I understand the requirements. We need to update this component to handle update offer tool calls and update both of them. Okay. So what does the updated code look like? So let's just go ahead and copy paste it, come over here, paste it, and start seeing what the damage is, guys. So you can see we're now passing up, sorry, we're still chatting. We're now going to start passing a body, which is going to be our local offer. Then what we're going to do is anytime we finish, we're going to handle a tool call. So what does handle tool call do? Well, in our case, we're going to say if message was, a tool invocation, we want to check to see if it was the update offer, because if it was, we want to grab that result, which is the new offer content, and we want to set the local offer. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky. And this is where we can use V0 as the glue, because that's how we can use cursor as the glue. So what I like to do is go inside of our backend route, we're returning inside of our chat, you can see we're returning back an object, like a confirmation and update offer. So what we can see is like, hey, I would like you to look at this file to see what we're returning and actually make sure that we're handling it appropriately. So you can do Command L to chat about a specific piece of code, and then you can do @ and talk about the specific file that you want to. So in our case, it's the chat route. And we can say, when you look at the return of our chat endpoint, whenever we're doing the tool update offer call, you'll notice that we're returning an object, period. However, inside the handle tool calls function, when we're working with update offer, we're just grabbing out the text. Can you please update handle tool calls to properly grab the offer from our backend endpoint? So fingers crossed, we're just trying this together, but you can see it should be grabbing it. Yes. And that is awesome. And it's extracting all the proper information. That's exactly what we would want. Awesome. So you can see like it is the glue that goes, yeah, look over here. Now fix this here. I love cursor for that. This looks great. Now what we can do is just to make sure that this is working too, we can go ahead and do a log as well. And yeah. Oh, another thing that I like to do with cursor is I'd like to use it to add logs, because adding logs it's just time consuming. So I always hop over to mini and then I just say, hey, can you please add a bunch of logs to this function? So it'll go off and just, you see how fast it is. It's just cranking out all of them. So normally that would have taken you and I a bunch of time to code out, but hey, there's no reason for that. So hopefully that's another helpful tip as you guys go off and start using this technology. All right. So what we can do now is we can start saying, and we're going to be doing some troubleshooting here just to set expectations. So we're going to go ahead and open up our inspector, hop over to console, and we're going to go ahead and start to actually make some changes to our offer over here to the side. So we're going to say, hey, can you please update the current offer from $500,000 to $300,000? Now this should go off and actually start doing some tool calling and hopefully give us back some actual answers. So we can also come over here into our code and actually see what's going on. So you can see right now we're calling everything. Yeah, we're calling the offers endpoint. The offer was updated, and you can see when we look at our code that we got a received message and the purchase price has been offered. And this is where things start to actually kind of fall apart when it comes to working with some of the updated docs, because you can see it said, hey, no tool call was found, but we actually did, call a tool. So this actually has to do with the fact that I'll just show you the actual issue real fast and how we can fix it. So if you come back over to the chat window, so the current issue is on finish only detects messages. It doesn't actually officially handle when tools get called. It only handles raw messages. So you and I need to go in and add a new function called handle new message. And that handle new message is basically just going to actually scrape through all the messages. And once it finds a tool call, then we'll go and update it. So let me show you exactly what I mean and how we can fix this together. So we're going to head back over to V0 and have it actually work. Well, first off, what we're going to do is paste in our code because, things kind of get out of state whenever we make some changes with cursor, and then eventually go back over and make some changes with V0. So we need to keep them on the same page. So that's why I pasted in. Now here's what we can say to V0 to hopefully get it to start recognizing the problem and how we can fix it. So this is where you as a software developer can't always 100% lean on AI solving the problem for you. Sometimes you have to do some digging, and that's what I had to do, is figure out why the heck are our tool callings not showing up in onFinish. And then I looked and I was like, oh, anything that is a tool call never appears inside of an onFinish. So I think it's just because tool calls are intermediate steps before final answer. So it doesn't show intermediate steps is actually what I've kind of deduced. So here's how we can do this together, guys. So what we can do is say onFinish is not properly detecting on tool calls. So what I would like you to do instead is create a new use effect that monitors all of the messages inside of use chat. And what I would like you to do inside of that use effect is call a function named handle new message. And what this handle new message function should do is look for the latest messages coming from the assistant, specifically where that message is a tool invocation. And if it's a tool invocation that called updated offer and has a result, you need to go ahead and call handle update offer, which should update the offer that is shown in the offer component over to the side. And it's important to note that we don't want to cause any weird issues. And what I mean by that is I don't want to iterate from our first message to our newest message, because there's a world to where there was actually 3 or 4 different tool calls in there. So what you should do is work from bottom up. And what I mean by that is you should look at the oldest, newest messages first. And if you happen to find a tool call, break out of this handle message loop until a new message comes in. Do you have any questions before you start implementing this new updated logic? All right, so while that's generating, let me just quickly explain to you guys what actually the heck I just mentioned. So what I was trying to tell the AI is basically, in case V0, is we want to, as you can see, there's an updated offer here. Well, there's a chance that they did another offer right here to say, hey, it needs to be $1 million. Well, in that case, it wouldn't make sense to start handling things like this way, to where we oh, I found an offer, quick, update over here. Oh, I found another offer, cool, let's update the offer modal again. Because in one conversation, every time we add a new message, it'll start from the top and ding, yep, update, ding, update. And that's just gonna cause some weird glitching and flickering. So us trying to be a little bit proactive, we go put our problem solving hats on and go, oh, I want to look from bottom up, so newest to oldest. And the second I find anything that has an offer updated like this, I will stop going back up the chain, because there's no reason to update the offer with older offers. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's keep going back over to V0 and see what they're adding for us. So we removed it. Great. That's what we asked. Added a callback, handle new message. All of this is looking great. So let's actually come in here and see what code they have set up for us. So let's copy paste it and run through it together. So you can now see what's happening is, well, first they missed some dependencies. So this is a quick dependency issue. This is a React issue specifically. Let me walk you through what just happened. So right now we have handle new message, but handle new message is outside of this use effect. So the quick answer is to just go ahead and paste it in here and to get rid of it. And then we can update. Basically, we're just going to run into some dependency issues with hey, this use effect needs things that don't exist. So what we can do is go ahead and update the dependency. And then now what we're going to do is hey, I'm getting this error. Cool. Shift Command E, like it says, and I'll do it again. Shift Command E, and it'll go ahead and tell us how to fix it, which is to put it in a use callback. And that's exactly what it's going to do for us. Oh, this is so cool. Normally this would have taken us a little bit just to wrap up, but you got to love AI doing it for us. So except it went ahead and update our imports for us, guys. And then outside of that, down here, it made a callback. And the only other thing that we need to do is move that callback above our use effect. Looks great. Now what we can do, that looks great now. This one's going to have a quick issue. So handle update offer. Also, let's see how many times we're calling this. Yeah, same thing. We just need to also fix this one. So it's Shift Command E, We'll fix this one as well by putting it in a callback. So as you can see, we are using cursor as the like, hey, just fix this. And I love it for that. So let's apply the update, accept. Now all we have to do is just move this function right up top. All right, great guys. This is looking awesome. So no more errors. And what we can do now is I would like to add some logs in here so we can prove that yes, when an updated offer does come in, we accept it. So per usual, come in here, Command L. Inside of Mini, we're going to say, hey, can you please add in some logs whenever we actually do receive a tool invocation for update offers. So this is going to go off and get that working for us. And then let's go ahead and that looks great. Apply it. Added the logs. Awesome. Now what I want to do is go ahead and save it. So we're going to run it just so we're on the same page. We're going to run it to make sure that we are properly, receiving and doing an updated tool invocation. And then what we're going to do afterwards is hop over and actually start finishing up to make sure basically our offers component over here, it's actually going to start viewing data because right now it's not showing anything that's updated. It's just static text. So, all right. So first things first, let's make sure this is working. So we're going to come over here and say, can you please update the current listing price of the offer to $415,000. So we're going to send it. Then what we're going to do is we would expect for it to go off, do its thing. And then we should expect it to do some sort of like, yep, tool is getting called. And once it's done doing its tool call, what we should expect to see is an offer update log. But for whatever reason, it didn't fully call it. So what we can do is come back and check and do a little bit more live debugging together to figure out, like, why did it not officially update the offer? So let's hop back over here and look at this together. All right, so after some digging, I went off and figured out what was going weird. So a few things that we needed to change. Thing one, if you actually look at our code, what we're doing is we're passing in a single message. So whatever the latest message, we're passing that in to our handle new message. The issue is whenever it comes to tool calling inside of OpenAI, what's actually happening under the hood is if you actually look, you'll see that a tool invocation has a tool name, and outside of that, it has a tool state. And what was happening is that state was not going, that tool invocation state was not ever result. It was at calling. So it's like calling the function, waiting for a result. So it was getting stuck. So that was the first issue. So what we need to do is we can come in here and we're going to start using cursor to help us figure out some of these issues. So instead of passing in the latest message, we're just going to pass in all the messages. Now that's going to cause an issue because our code is set up to handle only a single message. So we're going to turn this into an array and then we're going to leave it up to cursor to get this working for us. So we've added this in and now we're going to zoom out and use 4.0 to say, hey, can you please refactor this code? It was initially set up to handle a single message, but now I want you to iterate through all of the messages, starting with the latest messages and then work back to the beginning. Great. So that's how we're going to work backwards and iterate through all of them. Awesome. So we can go ahead and apply that. Now, there's also some additional changes that we need to make, and we're going to use cursor for that. So I noticed as I was doing a little bit of research, when it comes to our actual offer, what we're doing is we're passing around an object of like the offer and then content, but that's really not what we want. All we really want going forward is for all of our offers to be a string. So what we're going to do now for very light edits, we're just going to say, hey, update offer to be just a string. Hey, can you please change my code to handle the change where I just made offer in the props a string and update that throughout the rest of my code base. So basically just drop content, offer.content. Cool. So this will go off and apply all the changes for us. So you can see it's adding it everywhere. Apply. Great. That looks great. But now what's happening is there's going to be an issue in the parent. So what we can do is say, all right, offer. We're no longer going to worry about this because that was prior to us going off and making the offer in our schema. So what we can do now is actually start using our offer from our schema. Awesome. And then what we can do is actually just look inside of these different components and figure out what the heck we're passing in. So offer is a string. So all we have to do now is up here in the parent, pass around basically the content. Because what I was trying to get at is there's actually no reason for us to pass around the entire offer and everything else. We can actually just pass along the current one. Okay, so let's go into each one of these different sections and actually update it. And more specifically, guys, well, yeah, we'll go into each one of these and show it how to fix it real fast. And really what we can do is make this even more clear, because what we really are trying to pass around is the offer content and set the offer content. So what we can do is pass in initial offer dot content, but that could be null. So what we need to do is have some sort of default readme, or basically some default offer. So this is what we're going to work on together. We're going to make a new constants file right here. And inside of that constants file, we're going to pass in an offer. So this is like our template that we're going to be actually filling in together. Perfect. So what we can do now is say, all right, I want my initial offer content to be, if we already have content saved, show that. Otherwise, what I want to do is do the offer markdown. Great. So now we're going to have to import that, and we're going to have to update this to be a string. Now what we can do is actually go off and set everything to work. So there we go. So what we can do is just come in here and say, I just updated my code to start using offer content instead of offer. So can you please update my functions and passing things into my children components properly? So this will go off, and hopefully, like I said, now we just get to talk to our code and things just happen that are beautiful. So apply. Let's go ahead and apply. Things look great, guys. Now there are a few small issues whenever it comes to that we need to go off and fix. So such as in these two other children component, it's still looking for that offer modal. So what we can do is go over to our file upload component. And in here, this is what I love about using Cursor. Now what we can do is say like, hey, I have this chat component that is set up properly. Can you please look at those changes and apply them here? So this is exactly what we're going to do. Please look at the chat component. And in that chat component, you'll see that we're passing in the offer content as a string. Can you please look at how we're applying and passing in that offer content prop and apply those same changes here? So this will go off, look what we were doing, make the changes here, and hopefully actually get everything working great. And what you'll see is like it didn't fully do it. So we'll actually change the model when now that it's struggling, we'll up the ante and say, hey, you actually didn't update my file upload props to start using the appropriate offer prop. So once again, go look at the chat component and see what we're doing over there and apply those same offer props to this file. Please let me know if you have any questions. And then per usual, we can just add in our chat. So great. So now fingers crossed, this one should work. And for whatever reason, guys, it's still not 100% adding it in. I think it's just we're trying to get a little too fancy with it. So all we need to do is just say string. And then now we can say, as you can see, I've just changed the offer to be a string. Please update the issues accordingly. So now it should go off and actually get things working properly. So you can see now whenever we're working with offer, it's just offer content. So like I said, I was trying to be a little fancy there for you guys. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but hey, that's just the nature of it. And then same with offer viewer. This one's just going to be a string, looks great. And then this one's going to be a string. Okay, great. So now that we have this all set up, let's hop back over to our code and actually try running it and look at our logs to make sure that the offer is getting updated properly. And then we'll close this up by making sure that our offer viewer is properly showing the updated offer that we got generated from OpenAI. So let's hop over to our code. And what we can do is say update the price of the house to, we'll say 600K. And now this should go off, start calling the appropriate tools. And we should start to see that like, yes, a tool call is being made. So that's a little dot, great, tool call is being made. And you can see tool invocation now saying state call. But then you can see received offer update tool invocation with the result. And you can see that like now we have the updated offer, which is exactly what we wanted. And now what we're going to start doing is actually going off and getting this right-hand section of the code to work. And what the first thing that we need to do is actually make sure we're grabbing the current offer, because nowhere in our code have we said recently, hey, I'm working on 123 Main Street. This is not what we've been working on. So if you actually head back over to our code and go over to our page, what you'll notice is we have this get initial offer, which is not what we wanted to do at all. What we wanted to do was to get our current offer and then pass it down to our children. So we're actually just in a weird state from the get-go. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to actually go off and fetch our offer from our backend. And how are we going to do this? Well, this is a perfect time to start using V0 to make another query because this is a server-side component to fetch this specific offer. So let me show you how we can start doing that in V0. So we can head back over here and we can say, let's actually copy all of our code and paste it in, and we can start telling it what did it do wrong. Hey, can you please help me update my offer page, which is a server-side component, which is supposed to be fetching the current offer based off of the ID we are passing in. So what I would like for you to do is in our queries.ts file, can you create a new query which will get an offer by its ID and pass it back to us? And once you find that offer, can you please then pass it down into our child offer detail component? So what we would expect this to go do is make a new query for us and clean up our code. So let's see if V0 can pull through in this final test. So fingers crossed it does all the work for us. And I'm gonna go ahead and open up our queries page so that we can go ahead and prepare to go ahead and paste in our proper code. So you can see we now have get offer by ID. It's exactly what we would want. And then outside of that, what we can do is say like, all right, is our server side code calling it now? Well, it should be. So when we head back over here and paste in our code, you can see that now it's trying to call that function, and we can import it like we have been. It looks great. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. Looks great. And now what we can do is go ahead and start trying to run it one more time and see what's going to happen. So this is exactly what we would expect to happen. First of all, like it's a blank template now. That's exactly what we would want. So let's make sure, let's try it one more time to make sure that's working. And then we can later come in and actually go ahead and make sure changes over here, propagate to over here. So can you please update the offer letter to show a purchase price of, and then 400K. So what they should do, go off, get the tool result. Per usual, we'll go ahead and open up the logs so you can see what the heck's actually happening. And let's go ahead and see. For whatever reason, handling new message takes a few seconds, tool invocations getting kicked off, and then we're going to start getting back the result, which should include our updated price. So for whatever reason, it always just takes a little bit sometimes working with these OpenAI tools. Great. So now you can see that whenever we got back an updated $400,000 purchase price, this is exactly what we were trying to do. And then let's go even deeper because this is so cool and I'm so excited that we got here together. Can you please update the buyer's name to Brandon Hancock and the seller name to John Snow? And then when it comes to loan type, make that conventional and make the loan term 30 years fixed. So this is a much larger request that we're trying to do because now we're updating multiple variables. So what should be happening is now our tool call will take in our feedback that's a lot more complicated, and it will go off and hopefully update our code. So let's see what's going on over here. So it should take a few seconds to handle new message and eventually come back to us. Like I said, it was just taking a second. Yeah, so it's making the call. Now we just got to wait for it to actually come back and do its thing. And there are ways to make this faster. Right now we're using ChatGPT 4 Turbo. You could easily change this to GPT-4o Mini and it would work a lot faster. But we just right now we're just testing everything out. So great, offer updated. So now what we should hopefully see is things slowly start getting updated. Yeah, and for whatever reason it didn't grab it. So let's quickly dive in to figure out like why the first change was applied but not the second. So this will be the final debugging that we do together before we wrap things up. All right, guys, so welcome back. After some digging around, I figured out what the heck the issue was, and we got to blame AI for it. So the small issue was whenever we did the quick refactor to change this from a single for loop where we were iterating through each message to whenever we started to iterate through all messages. Now, here was the issue. When we break out of this for loop, it just breaks out of this for loop. It doesn't stop us from going through the rest of our messages. So as a result, what was happening is we had, so this was a tool call, tool call, tool call. So this was like our latest one. And then this one was our earliest. So what was happening is like, okay, even though we agreed that, we were going to start doing, even though we agreed that we were going to start going and only looking at the latest tool call, what was happening is it was actually still taking us all the way back up and going, all right, update the latest one. Ooh, there was another tool call. Let's get the previous one. So it was going back and actually even though we were properly generating the right information, it was just going back and setting all the way to the earliest tool call, which is not what we wanted. So the quick fix is just to change this to a return, which will completely break out of this loop entirely. So now let me show you this in action. So we're going to say, hey, can you please, that's in the wrong. So we're going to say, hey, can you please update the price to, 430K and the buyer to Brandon. Now this should go off and go ahead and start changing our buyer to my name, and then the next one's going to hopefully be our property, and then change the price as well. And I'm going to go ahead and start typing up another one just so we have it queued and ready to go. So we're going to say, actually, the price was 455K, and then so you can see automatically it changed the buyer name to Brandon and the purchase price to 430. So now it's up to us to make it even more complex to make sure things are working. So we're going to say, can you actually update the loan term to 30 years fixed and the seller to Jon Snow? Now what's going to happen is it's actually going to go off and still do the tool call properly like it was doing, except now we have updated our code to properly check for the latest tool call. That was the fix. So it was a simple programming error, and it happened just because we used AI to quickly add in a fix and we weren't careful about the actual repercussions. So that's one of the best parts of these tools. They're fast, but you got to be careful. But yeah, now you can see Jon Snow is properly updated, and you can see that the loan term has been updated to 30 years fixed. So this is perfect. It's actually working end to end. And once again, guys, I know that was like kind of a quick run through. I just wanted to showcase how you can use V0 in our 3-phase approach, and how you can start using V0, Claude, and Cursor all together to like really crank out an app very quickly. That was very fast that we did that. But if you want to take things even further and actually dive deep into building out this application that we kind of worked on together, I am uploading it over to my AI Developer Accelerator Pro. I'll have an entire sub module where I walk you guys through more some of the things that we sped through, such as setting up the database, and I'll take you guys a little bit further over into actually like setting things up. So you can see here's like a final version of what you'll see in the mini crash course. So you'll see, hey, can you please update the buyer name to Brandon Hancock #2 and the seller to Jon Snow 2, as well as change the loan type to FHA. So what you can see now is we have nice loading screens. We have loading screens here. That's all awesome. And then outside of that, what you can see is we're also going to give the ability to upload files. So this is like in the final complete version of the application. This is what you'll see in the mini course. And I think you already saw so it's all working. FHA, #2, Jon Snow, it's all working. And we added in the ability, let me just show you real fast, final thing, just because I think this is so cool. What we can have is our conversations auto-generate, and once again, go off auto-generate all of the code. And a few things that we left out in this quick module were the fact that it didn't go off and actually save and export the code, so we can work on that together. So now we can save it, come back over to our list view, which in our case is right here. And now what you can see is like, yep, we generated AI content for this specific client. Hop back over and you can see, yep, that's exactly what we were doing. So all around, super cool. This is in the sub module of the AI Developer Accelerator Pro program. So definitely check that out. I have a link down in the description below. All right, guys, and that's a wrap for this video. I hope you guys are psyched to start using Claude, V0, and Cursor inside of your own applications. I can't wait to see what you guys go off and build using this super cool AI tech stack. I also wanted to share a few different links with you guys, just as a quick reminder. If you're looking for some additional help and you just want to meet some additional like-minded AI developers, I have that free Skool Community down below. I think you guys will love it, and we have our free coaching calls every Tuesday. Outside of that, if you're looking for some additional support to master AI development, I just launched a Fullstack AI development course that teaches you how to use AI in full stack development to automate workflows. Definitely love it. A ton of great reviews on it. Definitely check that out inside the free Skool Community. And also, if you want to see the code behind this application for the full stack real estate agents, I actually have that over in my AI Developer Accelerator Pro community over in Skool. But I have links to everything down below if anything was confusing. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. I have a ton of other free YouTube related AI content right here on this channel. So I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Have a great one. See ya.